Hello everyone, how are you doing? I am here tonight to talk about Hunger Satisfied and the Renewing of the Mind with Heidi Bylsma. I'm going to turn this around quick. Here's Heidi. Heidi, can you get in there and see everybody and me? Heidi is my friend and she's been visiting with me since I think, when was it? Sunday? It's hard to get both of us in this little screen. Anyway, she's been here for a few days.
Yay!
And we've been having a really fun time. We've been hiking and visiting and
splashing around on the lake.
Splashing around the lake. Hi, Kim. How are you doing? So I thought, why not take advantage of Heidi's expertise while she's here and interview her for the Periscope.
Yay!
So we're going to talk about Hunger Satisfied Boundaries because Heidi is the Director of Corporate Communications for Thin Within.
I talk too much.
Lakeisha.
Is what that means.
Yeah, so Heidi, she's an expert on Hunger Satisfied Boundaries. So Heidi, can you tell us, because I know some people might not, I keep forgetting. Not everybody will know what Hunger Satisfied Boundaries are. I actually didn't even hear about this until after I wrote Freedom from Emotional Eating because I had always lost weight with diets. But Heidi has a different story and she can tell us about another way to either lose or maintain your weight.
Right. And the Hunger Satisfied approach is you wait until you're hungry, a novel concept, I know. You wait until you're hungry and then you stop eating when you're satisfied physically. It's a physical sensation we're looking for, not just a desire to eat. So it's kind of that simple, but not as easy as it is simple. So that's kind of the upshot of it.
So is it different to lose weight on these boundaries than it is to maintain weight in the boundaries?
One of the real cool things about Thin Within or Hunger Satisfied Boundaries is that you don't have to change and learn a new way of eating once you're maintaining. So if I am eating what we call in Thin Within 0, which is hunger, to 5, which is satisfied, if I eat that way, I will release the weight, and then I stop releasing weight as I continue to eat 0 to 5. I know I'm at the weight I'm supposed to be, and I maintain it, all by eating the same way that I have while I release the weight. So that's kind of a cool part of it.
Okay. And that is an advantage because if you do something like Weight Watchers or something like that and then switch to 3 meals a day, you do have to learn a different way of eating. So it's that's an advantage to have the same type of weight loss boundaries as it is maintenance boundaries because then you don't have to learn a new way of eating. So
Which is scary sometimes.
Okay, so how do you tell when you're full? And how do you tell when you're hungry? Because a lot of people might say when they see ice cream, "Oh, I'm hungry." Okay, so how do you tell?
That would be me. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Hunger is not a sound. It is generally a sensation in your stomach. Is I don't think you can see me here, but where your ribs come together and you have a sternum bone, just below that and a little left of center is where your stomach is. And it's going to feel for everybody maybe a little different, but most people describe it as a stabbing, an emptiness. It's kind of like a balloon in its structure, and it's like a deflated balloon, and you feel it. You feel a hollowness, an emptiness. And some people who say they're not sure, they pray about it, and sometimes clarity comes to them by praying about it. Then the trickiest part for most people is, what is a stopping place? Satisfied. What is what we call 5 in Thin Within? And that's where I like to stop when I'm no longer hungry because it makes it easier that way for me than to think of, well, am I satisfied? Because my brain will say, of course I'm not satisfied. The pizza is so good, I must have more. So physical satisfaction to me basically feels like I'm not hungry anymore. And I'm not so full that I couldn't go out and run or do jumping jacks and kind of get that irpy burpy thing going on. Then I've eaten too much. So a 5 might feel where you barely feel the food against the walls of your stomach. It takes a while to get used to, and you have to kind of play with it. So you got to extend a lot of grace to yourself.
Okay, so one of the things I noticed when Heidi was here is that it doesn't seem like she eats very much. So I'm wondering about how many times would you normally eat on the hunger fullness? How many times a day? I know It probably varies from time to time, but I'm just curious about how often.
Well, it depends. At the beginning, when I first started to release weight, I lost 100 pounds this way. And at the beginning, I would eat probably 5 to 7 times a day. I had the freedom to do that, though, because I was an at-home mom homeschooling. And a lot of people who don't have that freedom will probably eat a little bit more in their 0 to 5 than I did. I stopped, very first sign of I'm not hungry anymore. And some people might call that like a 3, which means I'm not quite satisfied. But for me, I figured if I was hungry, in a half an hour I could eat again. And so it worked for me. So did that answer your question?
Yeah, so one of the nice things is you're never sitting there starving. Because
Right.
whenever you're hungry, you can eat.
Right. You're
And
actually telling yourself you can eat when you're hungry.
Right. And so I can just ask this question, even though I know the answer after being with Heidi all week. Do you have really big meals every time you eat? Can you have 5 to 7 big meals on this and lose weight?
No. No, if a person is eating 5 to 7 times a day, it usually means they're eating a lot less than, like, if you were to crush up the food and smash it up, it would be no more than a loosely held fist. And I'm guessing you have a lot of weight to lose if you're eating that often, that much food. For me now, to maintain, I would have this much food no more than 3 times a day probably, and then a smaller meal. And truly, the fist is kind of a good measuring tool. The amount of food, our stomachs are about that size when they have a proper amount of food in them, most of us. So
Okay, so if you have more weight to lose, can you eat? Are you usually hungry for more food?
Well, that's a good question because it does take more to sustain a greater weight, a larger size. And so what I found is over time, as I was releasing the weight, I didn't need as much food to continue to release the weight. And what I eat now is far less than it was when I was releasing the weight. Somebody asked a question.
Yeah, they said, do you eat snacks?
Every time food crosses my lips or even beverages, I count that as I want to be hungry when I do that. That's the ideal anyway. So I don't eat snacks. I don't call them snacks, to be honest with you, because it's an eating opportunity to nourish my body. And so even if I eat a small portion, like a few cashews, I like to do that when I'm hungry. And the cashews can help stave off that super duper nasty hunger feeling for an hour or two when I'm ready for dinner or whatever.
Okay. And so I'm guessing if you eat 5 to 7 times a day, you could either call them a snack or a meal, but it's still 5 to 7 times.
Yeah, but it's if it's that much many times a day, it's probably very little food at a sitting, or at least at a couple sittings.
Okay.
And it's you probably have a lot of extra weight to lose. I'm just guessing.
Oh, that's right. Because you said you only eat how many times now?
Now probably three times, and they're small meals. Well, you can tell me.
Right, yeah. Okay, so only 3 times. So really, with this weight loss program, it's an advantage to have a lot more to lose because you get to eat more often.
Yeah, well,
right?
yeah, you can eat more often.
Right, okay.
And whatever you want to eat is kind of cool, too, because all of those things that we think are off limits aren't off limits. And as you continue on this road, you can begin to have some discernment about what foods make your body feel better than others. And that's when you adjust what you're eating, what you're choosing between hunger and satisfied.
Okay, and how would you renew your mind? When would you know when to renew your mind with these types of boundaries?
Well, I'm sure that varies for everybody. What I recommend to my clients is that if you know you have certain issues with overeating right from the get-go, I like to start the day with renewing my mind. That, my body, I just tell myself the truth. Sometimes I've used your wonderful resource, I Deserve a Donut, and I use the app as well. But and I like to journal those out at least once, and then I often come back to it. But I like to renew my mind in the beginning of the day. And then if I have, evening times are tough for a lot of people. That's when they tend to overeat in front of the TV or whatnot. So I like to, when I'm struggling with that, I will renew my mind beforehand. Between 4 and 5 in the evening to be proactive. If you do break your boundaries, definitely renew your mind as soon as you can afterwards. And then there's one other thing I wanted to say about that. Oh, the bargaining. I like to also bargain with myself. If I know I'm being tempted to eat more than I need or to go to the kitchen when I'm not hungry, I will say to myself, okay, you can have that, whatever it is, outside of your boundaries, as soon as you renew your mind for 10 minutes first. And often that takes care of it, and I don't want to eat after I've renewed my mind.
Okay, yeah, that's great. And I also, well, first of all, I wanted to say, so you renew your mind whenever you break your boundaries. So does that mean you renew your mind whenever you eat when you're not hungry, or you keep eating when you're already full?
Yeah, that would be ideal. A lot of, in the ideal world, you would, if you're eating when you're not hungry, you would want to renew your mind about that. It's really hard to be honest about when to stop, when you're satisfied, if you start eating before you know you're hungry. So it's definitely a good reason to renew your mind if you're starting before you're hungry, because chances are you're eating beyond satisfied too.
Okay. And one last question. Heidi does a great renewing of the mind tool, and I'd like her to tell us about it. It's called Truth Cards.
Truth cards is something that I got from one of my clients. That's what she called it. It basically, what I like to do is I like to journal through Barb's questions in I Deserve a Donut, and then I'll go back and highlight some of the things that I've written in my journal that kind of jump out as these are truths that God really wants to get into my head. And sometimes it'll be the scriptures that she has, sometimes it will be the tips that she has, but sometimes it'll be the things that God lays on my heart as I've journaled. And then I'll take those highlighted bits and pieces and put them into a set of 3x5 cards or 4x6 cards. I like the spiral bound ones, and that way I have a whole deck. And so that way I can carry them with me and look at what my truths are throughout the day if I need to. It can be a wonderful tool to have at the ready, so that if you are at a restaurant, you could excuse yourself to go to the bathroom and flip through your truth cards and get a quick dose of renewing your mind on the fly.
Okay, and there was a question that said, do you ever break your boundaries now, or do you ever eat when you're not hungry?
No, I'm perfect.
She is. I've been with her for a week. She's perfect.
Yeah, no, I do break my boundaries. In fact, the way I look at this, it's a process. And I refer to going down the trail, and we're riding our horses down the trail, and someday we'll be at the end of the trail. But right now we're riding ever so imperfectly. We fall off and we get back up on the horse again. And so the trick is, how long will I stay off the horse, floundering around in the dust, and how soon will I get back on? And so I believe for the rest of my life, I'm going to be in this process. And when I stand in front of Jesus someday, maybe I will have gotten it down. But no, I do not follow my boundaries perfectly. I wish I could say I did. I'm not a Barb Raveling.
Oh, no. I don't follow mine perfectly either.
I love you, Christina.
Well, Heidi is going to start periscoping. She just did her first short little periscope yesterday. So you guys can follow her at Heidi Bylsma, Bylsma, right? And she's going to do a periscope tonight, her first regular periscope. Yesterday she just got on when I didn't know she was getting on in our living room. And so we just had a little visit. But she'll be talking on, renewing your mind and weight loss and thin within boundaries. The hunger is satisfied. So if you guys need help with that, she'll really be able to help you out there. That's a good idea. I'll share her scope. That's a great idea when she gets on. We do have, I don't know how fast our internet's at our house. So I guess we can chance it. We'll try and both get on the internet at the same time, and I'll try and share it quick, and then I'll have to get out just to make sure I don't slow down our scope. But it'll be at 7 o'clock, I think, right?
Yeah, I'm going to try to get on it sooner, but I don't know if I'll make it sooner.
Okay, so maybe sooner. She just has to go down and get her iPod and get it set up. So thanks, you guys, and we'll be there. See you tomorrow, I guess. Tomorrow's Friday. One more day this week. I'm not sure what time. Heidi and I are going to do another hike again tomorrow, and sometime we'll be on there. So good to see everybody.
But come on over to my channel. Is it channel, stream? What's it called?
Scope. Come to Heidi's
Come to my scope.
Very soon. I'll get on and share it so you guys can get it. Talk to you later, guys.
Bye.